So August is one of my favourite months for TBRs because it is the Magical Readathon Autumn Equinox. Today I'm actually only going to be giving you my Magical Readathon TBR with a couple of additions. Last month I did say that I feel like my TBRs have become sort of like a monthly check-in where I tell you how many books I read from like last month's TBR and everything I didn't read just gets carried over, and I add like a new short stack of books to it. So for this August TBR I have decided that I'm not going to run through everything else on my TBR. We're just going to focus on the Magical Readathon prompts. Now in terms of last month's TBR, there were 13 books on there. I read 2, I DNF'd 1, and I'm currently reading 3. So there's still 7 books from that TBR that I didn't get to, and I expected it in July. August, I'm hoping for great things. We'll see what happens. I definitely intend to read past my Magical Readathon TBR, but only time will tell. We'll see how it goes. You are going to be seeing some books still that are generally on my TBR that are fulfilling Magical Readathon prompts, as well as a couple of new additions where I couldn't get books that I like have to read on there. So if you guys aren't familiar with Magical Readathon, first off, my favorite readathon of all time. I participated in every round since like 2017 or 18. I think it was 18 that it started. It's a readathon that's based on a magic school. It's like an RPG D&D style of thing where you create a character, you have certain perks. Every term like you earn guild points to go towards like your overall level, and the goal of the readathon, there is a very like helpful 101 guide that they create, which is G from Book Roast, who is honestly just a creative genius. I will link her of course and the readathon announcement down in my description box, as well as the handy how-to guide, because it can be a little bit intimidating getting into it, but like I said, I followed it for like the last 5 years. But essentially you pick a magical career or a calling, mine is demonologist, and it gives you a list of classes that you have to pass to be able to go into this career, and each class has a reading prompt associated with it. You read books, you pass the classes, and you achieve your career or like calling goals. There are 2 rounds to the readathon as well. There's one in spring, there's one in autumn, and the autumn one's a little bit harder. So as I said, I am going to be going for the demonologist calling, and this requires me to read 7 books. There are also like additional bits to this readathon. There's side quests, there's like guild stuff happening, and I do hopefully intend, if I read my 7 books, to continue on into some of these side quests, including some that you can still do now that I didn't get to in like the spring round. So I'm going to be getting into my Magical Readathon TBR pretty handy, but before I do that, there's just 2 things that I would like to mention first. The first is that one book that I'm reading that will not be contributing towards Magical Readathon is The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan. The reason this isn't contributing, with it being such a chunky book, is because I have already started it. By the time the end of the month rolls around, I'll be over halfway through, and I essentially have this sectioned out to finish by the 5th of August, which is the date for the live show for this if you are participating in the Wheel of Time along. The live show for The Shadow Rising, which is book 4, is going to be on the 5th of August on my channel at 9 PM BST, which is the current UK time zone. I'm currently 444 pages into it. I feel like it's just kind of picking up, and I'm learning things that are very, very intriguing. But just so y'all know, up until the 5th of August, I'm going to be trucking along with this. It's on my TBR, I'm reading it, but it won't be contributing to Magical Readathon at all, unfortunately. The other book that I would like to add, I want to do now in case this changes anything about my Magical Readathon TBR, but that is my August Patreon Inner Circle pick. So if you are part of the Inner Circle tier of my Patreon, thank you, because you do the most. But you also get to recommend a book that goes into this jar. I pull one out every month and I add it to my TBR. Now I have actually just added 20 more spots to the Inner Circle tier of my Patreon. So if you are interested in that, you do get a bookmark, which I guess would be like the main perk of the Inner Circle tier. There are currently I think 16 spots available. Just a heads up, it is best to join on like the 1st of the month, because that is when subscriptions renew and it's like the best value and stuff. But I'm just gonna dive right into here. I don't know what I'm kind of hoping for, what genre I'm hoping for with this, so we're just gonna see. Okay, I think I managed to salvage them all. Because this is precarious, I'm just kind of gonna grab something. I have taken them all out, shaken them up and put them back in, so they have been mixed recently. I'm gonna go with this one, which is a yellow one, meaning that it was added to the jar before 2023, so it's an oldie. Oh, The Wrath and the Dawn, which is Farina's pick. Do I own this? I do. 1 minute. So The Wrath and the Dawn is a book that's been on my TBR for a very long time. It's weird because I never look at this book and think I want to read you, but I'm also not mad that it's come up for this. But it is a YA fantasy that was very, very popular back in the day. I think it's a duology, and it is about a king that takes a new bride every night, and the brides never come back. I don't know if people know for sure that they're dead or whether they just go missing under like mysterious circumstances, but our main character volunteers herself to become the next bride, which is something that typically isn't done. But the reason why she does it is because her best friend was taken and she wants to exact her revenge against this king. But I think she ends up falling in love with him. So definitely fantasy romance vibes here. I'm excited. I'm intrigued. I hope I enjoy this one. So thank you to Farina. This is one I never would have said I hope this comes out of the jar, but now that it has, I'm actually really happy about it. And at this moment, I don't think that this changes anything about my Magical Readathon TBR. I don't think I want to replace a book, but we'll see if we can manage to squeeze this into something this month. So moving on to my Magical Readathon TBR, I have my syllabus here. So to become a demonologist, I need an O in conjuration, a D in demonology, O in elemental studies, and a Q in spells and incantations. So we're just going to go through the list of classes in order, and I'll tell you what I have picked out. So my first conjuration class of the term is in ghostly etiquette, and the prompt for this is to read a court or royal book. So I have a lot of options for this because like royal fantasy is my jam. I love it. These books are very precariously stacked. But the book that I've chosen for this is Blood Sanctuary Part 2 by Vila Roth. Now at the minute I'm like 35 pages into Blood Sanctuary Part 1. While you can't use books that you're currently reading for Magical Readathon, I know that literally nobody cares about 35 pages that I've started in a book. So if I don't make any more progress in Blood Sanctuary before the end of the month, then I will just substitute it for Part 1. But this one is my Patreon book club series up until pretty much the end of the year at this point. This one is a very slow-paced, very political adult fantasy romance series following the bastard daughter of the king, who of like the human lands, who wants to get in touch with a Hesperine. Now a Hesperine is a vampiric creature, and the Hesperines have actually sent a delegation to the human lands to renegotiate the terms of a peace treaty that lapsed like hundreds of years ago. The Hesperines are actually the antithesis of everything we know about vampires. Like in here, they're very peaceful creatures, they work in tandem with nature, they hate death, but the way that everybody else views them, like the human realms and other realms across this world, they view them as monsters. But for whatever reason that we don't know at the beginning of the first book, Cassia would like to get in touch with one. So she maneuvers herself to be in the same place as the rest of the royal court for summer so that she can make contact with one of the Hesperines, and she actually ends up talking to one of the emissaries, Leo, and the first book is mainly told in a series of conversations that they have leading up to the like pinnacle of these peace talks, which is the spring equinox. So wait, which one does this lead up to? Is it autumn? Oh no, it's winter solstice this one is headed up to. I have mixed feelings about this series. I really like how intricate and complex the world is, but the writing style is very formal, very info dumpy. The world building is a little bit too intricate, and I like that fully fleshed out world, but now I kind of need some plot at this point in the series because it's very like chill. I would say like there's not a lot of conflict within the romance, so I need the plot to amp up at this point. But at least these two parts, part 1 and 2, are only like 400 pages because the rest of the books in this series are significantly thicker. My next class is to get my O in demonology, which as a demonologist, this is a very important subject for me. And the first class is an introduction to low-level demons. I have been very excited about this prompt and terrified of this prompt since G made the announcement video because it's one of my favorite prompts, but it's like it's out of my control. So it's read the first book you see on Instagram or Goodreads or like some form of social media. So this is actually a square on my Bookopoly board that I love and hate in equal measure, and I always do Goodreads, and the way that I do it is it's the first book that I own or have access to. So if it's downloaded on KU, so I have an intention to read it, but it's like an ebook copy, that will be the book that I read. So I have been, up until this, I've been going on to Goodreads and like looking at what it would be if I was doing it for realsies. But no, we are doing it for realsies, and one of my most anticipated releases of the year was released 2 days ago. So I'm really hoping that is the one. Goodreads is open. Let's begin the scroll. that was easy and not what I anticipated it being. And it's also, coincidentally, it's right in front of me. It's Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett, which, you know what? That wasn't even almost what I thought this was going to be. I don't want to scroll further and see like what I could have had. This is not serving me. I was really hoping for Lightbringer, guys. Lightbringer was just released and I was like, come on. But no. So this was an adult fairy book and I have heard actually wonderful things about it, but I do not remember what it's about. It is very, very pretty under the dust jacket. I do remember that though. And with all Fairy Loot editions, they're all absolutely stunning. But this, is it about, I think it's like a cozy fantasy vibe about a woman who's writing an encyclopedia of fairies, maybe. She has a dog, which is always good. Okay, I remember the guy's called Wendell Bumblebee and I just like love that name. But she is a junior scholar who is trying to put together the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore, and she goes to a village where she meets her academic rival, Wendell Bumblebee, and I'm assuming romance ensues. So I am definitely down to read this one. Very different to what I've been reading recently, which is like big, thick, heavy fantasy. So I feel like this will be a nice change of pace for me. Okay, so next up you're gonna watch me scramble to make this work, and I will make it work. Okay, it works. I need to achieve a Q in demonology. The prompt is to read a book with a magical creature. Now let me tell you about Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. In this world, in Red Rising, there are people who ride griffins. Griffins are magical creatures, okay? But this is a sci-fi. And these griffins have technically been made, but in the image of magical creatures. Like the people in this world said, these griffins are cool, I want them for myself, let's make them. So we're making it count, because Lightbringer is the 6th book in the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown, which is one of my favorite series of all time. I've heard that this has like the most emotional death he's ever written, and I need to read it ASAP. Now granted, I currently don't have a copy. I pre-ordered the Goldsboro edition of it, and if you know Goldsboro, if you ordered from them before, if you pre-ordered, they just send you books whenever they feel like it, and they haven't quite felt like it yet. I don't want to get another copy of this because I will, when it's announced, when it's released, I will eventually want the Fairy Loot edition to match the rest. So I'm just waiting for my Goldsboro copy, because like £18 or however much it will be for this massive hardback is too much money to spend to have it right this second, when realistically I have a big TBR that I should be working my way through. So when the Goldsboro edition arrives, I will be diving into this. If you aren't unfamiliar with Red Rising at all, it is a sci-fi series. It's set in space. It has a dystopian overarching plot, but it reads like a martial fantasy. And we're following a guy called Darrow, who is a red in a color cast system where reds are right at the bottom and golds are right at the top. So Darrow and his people mine for a valuable substance called helium-3. And the reason why they think they're doing this is because it will allow people to terraform the solar system so that everyone can escape the dying planet Earth. However, after Darrow's wife makes herself a martyr to spur Darrow into action, he goes to the surface of Mars and he finds out that the planets have been terraformed for quite some time and his people are essentially being kept in slavery. So from that moment on, he joins a rebellion with the intention of infiltrating the golds and tearing them apart from the inside. It's some good shit. We have very Shakespearean drama, blood feuds, betrayals. Pierce Brown does not pull his punches. It can be really dark at times. I'm essentially here for the drama mainly in this series, and I just love how twisty it is and how it takes me by surprise. While it doesn't fit the prompt perfectly, because they're technically like genetically engineered creatures, they were made based on a magical creature, so we're rolling with it. So the final class for demonology to achieve a D is control and influence, and the prompt for this one is to put a few books on a poll and let others decide. So I did post a poll on Patreon. I actually haven't looked at it at all since I posted it, which is weird for me because I usually have no chill. I put a ton of books that are on like the next most important books on my TBR that I haven't managed to fit into any Magical Readathon prompts was the category. So we have The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak, which was my Patreon pick for last month. Another Patreon pick, can you tell I'm behind on everything, is The Demon King by Cinder Williams Chimer. We also have The Edge of Collapse, which is by Kyra or Kyla Stone. I can never remember which one. That one's like a dystopian thriller. And Masters of Death by Olivia Blake, which is an arc that I'm due to read in August. So let's see what the people decided. Oh, okay. Did I see that coming? I'm not sure. I kind of thought that the Demon King stood a chance because I know it was popular back in the day, and that did have 25%. It came in second place. But the winner, which I feel like I could have guessed, is Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. So the reason why I'm very excited to read this is because I've read the Atlas 6 and I really enjoyed it. And also because the synopsis for this is wild. This is about a real estate who I think is also a vampire. And the house that she's trying to sell is haunted by a ghost that was murdered. To help her get rid of this ghost so that she can sell this house, she enlists the help of I think it's the godson of death, who is a medium, however a fraudulent one. There's also something I think about an angel or like a demon personal trainer and a whole ton of other like super eccentric things. I don't know whether would this technically be classed as paranormal? I think so. But there's just something about the range of Olivia Blake synopses that I really, really love. And I've got all of Olivia Blake's books now, apart from like her YA stuff. But I've only read the Atlas 6, so I'm really excited to dive into this one, and I'm glad that it did get added to the TBR. By far the hardest prompt for me to fulfill was the elemental studies one. I need to achieve an O in this, and the class is Element of Earth, the prompt being a book with the word earth in the title. These are in short supply, guys. This was really, really hard. I only had 3 that qualified, and 2 of them, earth was in the series title, not the book title. So I went with the one that I think would be, well, it is going to be the quickest and easiest read of my options, which is Unearthed by Megan Spooner and Amy Kaufman. I didn't realize this had foiling on the cover. It's kind of pretty. I don't remember what this is about. I really like the J. Kristoff, Amy Kaufman sci-fi, and I did really like the other Amy Kaufman, Megan Spooner one I've read, which is these, I don't have my glasses on, these Broken Stars, I believe is that one. They're just very easy to read, very compelling YA sci-fi novels that are very fun and enjoyable like at the time that you're reading them. This one I think is more of a dystopian. Oh, it has aliens. So this is about a long extinct alien race that have advanced technology with the potential to undo environmental damage in, I'm assuming, like a post-apocalyptic kind of environment. And they send out, Earth intercepts a message from them, which leads to the planet Gaia, a treasure trove waiting to be explored. So I'm assuming our main characters are going to explore that to try and gain the knowledge to undo all of the environmental damage. So yeah, I went for this pretty much because it was my easiest option, and my options were very, very limited. But these are a good time, and I do definitely feel, especially throughout July, I have been thinking I do need a few like shorter, faster paced, less brain worky books on my TBR at the minute. So my last subject is spells and incantations, which I need a Q in. The first one is a charm, which is short trip. This one's to achieve an O, and the prompt is to read a manga, comic, or graphic novel. So I'm going to be going with Lore Olympus Volume 4 by Rachel Smith. I've had this for like 2 months and I haven't read it, which is wild because I normally read these pretty much as soon as I get them. But Lore Olympus is a Hades and Persephone comic retelling. It's a web comic, so you can read it up to date online, but I have been like pacing myself and waiting for the physical bind-ups. It's kind of modernized. There's technology, like the underworld is a city, Olympus is a city, and Persephone has come to the city to study, where she ends up meeting Hades. And we all know how Hades and Persephone retellings go. I really like this series because I like how it's retained like some of the characteristics of the gods, but made them like kind of modern and relatable, but it doesn't shy away from some of the like grim god stuff as well. So there is like, especially like domestic abuse, sexual assault, and all of that kind of stuff depicted in here. So do be wary of that if you're going into it. But the whole Hades and Persephone thing is just so wholesome, and I love the art style, and it's just like a super quick, easy, like addictive kind of read. And then the final Magical Readathon prompt I need to fulfill for my career is an incantation. This is to achieve a Q in spells and incantations, and it is Black Flame, the prompt being a black cover or fire on the cover. So for this one, I've gone with black cover, and I'm reading The Pomegranate Gate by Ariel Kaplan. This one is an ARC. The release date has just passed for this. It was like mid-July, so theme of my life is I am behind. This one it's based on Jewish folklore, and it's set in, I think, 15th century Spain, at a time when all of the Jews were told that they had to leave the city, or would they die? Oh no, they had to convert to, I think, Christianity, or they had to leave the city. So our 2 main characters are fleeing the city, and they end up meeting, I think, think one of them ends up going through the pomegranate gate, which is a gate into another dimension. The reason why I really want to read this is because it's very reminiscent to me of things like the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. Because as somebody who doesn't like historical fiction, I actually kind of really enjoy historical fantasy, so I'm hoping that this will be something that I absolutely adore. There are side quests for Magical Readathon as well. Like I mentioned, there's a couple of extracurricular activities that I haven't committed to yet. We'll see like what I get on with. I do kind of want to follow the alchemy quest line, which was introduced in the spring equinox that I didn't get around to, where you don't get the next prompt until you complete the first one. So the first prompt for that is like a book with night in the title or a night sky on the cover. I do know that the Edge of Collapse will fit for this, but also like I would say probably about 40% of my book collection may also fit for this. So we'll see what I end up going with, but that is definitely one that I aim to pursue. And then maybe I'll go into some of the new stuff. There is like a summoning charm to learn, which I think I'm definitely going to be doing. And I just love how immersive this readathon is. I literally adore it. It's my favorite readathon of all time. As somebody who, I don't do like D&D or anything, but I do play a lot of RPG games and MMOs, so I really love this readathon because it reminds me of stuff like that. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. Like I said, there's a lot going on, so it takes a little bit to get your head around, but I promise you it is worth it. It is so immersive. G puts so much effort into it, and it's honestly just the best time. I get so hyped at Magical Readathon time of year, like I can't even explain it. So here is this one's my Magical Readathon TBR plus Lightbringer, and then we also have, I'm going to be reading sections of The Shadow Rising every day up until the 5th, and then we have The Wrath and the Dawn, which I probably won't get to this month, but has been added to my TBR as well. So down in my comments, let me know if you are participating in Magical Readathon. If you are, what is your calling? What careers are we going for, babes? But aside from that, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you wanna. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish Candle website, the Etsy for that, and a 10% off discount code. That's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you're a go when nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.